So there's a Canadian political cartoonist who made a cartoon that's a stinging rebuke of Donald Trump's immigration policies. You can see it here over my shoulder, but let me show you a better example here. You can see the whole thing here. It says, "Do you mind if I play through?" And it shows the bodies of drowned migrants, Oscar Alberto Martinez Ramirez and his daughter Valeria. They recently died trying to get into the United States. And there's a pic of them that went viral that's disturbing. It's them, basically laying in the river dead. And the whole idea, I don't need to explain this to you. You guys get it already. But the idea is you got Trump. He's like a callous, elitist, rich dude. And he doesn't care about the suffering of these poor people. And so he's like playing golf. "Oh, you mind if I play through?" to these dead folks. And yeah, it's agree or disagree with it, that is a powerful cartoon. In other words, it's going to evoke reactions from people. Of course it is. That's the point. The point is to shock the conscience. Mission accomplished. That's what they did. So, Brunswick News fired the cartoonist. Now, he worked for Brunswick News, the Moncton Times, and Transcript, the Fredericton Daily Gleaner, and the St. John Telegraph Journal. He worked for all those because they were all under the same parent company, and now he has no job. And get this, the parent company that fired him is a privately owned conglomerate that's headquartered in New Brunswick, and it's also an international company that's worried about trade concerns. So the theory is the reason why they fired this cartoonist is because the head of this company was afraid he wouldn't get trade deals with the U.S. because he was afraid Trump would know that they employ a guy who makes cartoons like this about him. By the way, this is a great example of why you need rules and regulations when it comes to media ownership. Like, should somebody who is an oil billionaire also own a newspaper? Well, then the newspaper's a lot less likely to go after the oil industry and to say, hey, there's some corrupt dealings going on here, or they're increasing pollution, or whatever it may be. You need rules around media like this, because if you don't, you're going to have massive conflicts of interest, and it's going to affect the job done by the papers. It's like Jeff Bezos being a giant owner of the Washington Post. They're not very likely to go after Jeff Bezos now, are they? They're not very likely to go after Amazon now, are they? So there's always going to be conflict of interest problems. If you have state media, you can say, oh my God, they're going to be too biased in favor of the decisions made by the government. These are all tough things that need to be navigated and need to be fleshed out. You need to have rules that make sense as much as possible, where you give people the freedom to say what they want to say, because that's important, to let people speak freely. Now, the other point to make about this is, and you guys probably saw this coming from a mile away, but I say it because it's true, this is why freedom of speech is so important. Is because I always tell you guys, you have to be for free speech if you're on the left, because that's like the first place they go to censor and to deplatform. Because if you're on the left, really on the left, you're questioning power. You're saying the status quo is not working. I'm not in favor of keeping things the same. I'm not in favor of the powers that be. I really want to change stuff. I don't believe in tradition for tradition's sake. I believe in changing things, reforming, progressing, to be a progressive, progress. And when you do that, it by definition threatens the status quo. So if you're a political cartoonist and you're on the left and you do a cartoon like this, a lot of people are going to say, hey man, that's offensive. Fuck you. And they're going to like it that you got fired. This is why you should believe in free speech protections, because you don't have a leg to stand on unless you're principled. And I like to think I'm principled on this issue, which is why I defend odious assholes on the right when there's a free speech concern involving them, because now there's no hypocrisy, there's no contradiction, there's no, oh my God, look at him flipping. No, now it's, you all knew it was coming. This dude deserves to have free speech, and he should not have gotten fired. This is a clear example of the principle of free speech being incredibly important. You should be allowed to say whatever you want to say. This is just a battle of ideas. His idea is the philosophy, the policies being implemented by the Trump administration at the border are barbaric, are backwards. He's callous. He's indifferent. He doesn't give a fuck about these people. He doesn't even see them as human. He's out there playing golf while people are dying at the border and doesn't concern him, doesn't keep him up at all. Why shouldn't you be allowed to say that? Why shouldn't you be allowed to shock the conscience with a cartoon on that? You absolutely should. Even if you don't agree with this guy, you should be like, yeah, let him do his thing. Because there's plenty of fucking idiot Ben Garrison cartoons out there who's a right-wing cartoonist who does stupid, draws stupid cartoons. Should he get fired because he, whatever, goes after the Democrats in a certain way? He'll go after Pelosi and they might call it sexist or whatever. Should he get fired? No. Well, he shouldn't get fired either for this shit. So, it's a shame, man. It's a shame that we gotta walk on eggshells. No, you're supposed to criticize your leaders. You're supposed to question those in power. You're supposed to have stinging rebukes. You can express that however you want to express that. That's artistic license. And we should all stand in solidarity. This guy should absolutely be rehired. And if he's not rehired by the original newspaper, somebody else should give him a job.